What would you do if the ghost of your past haunted every moment of your present? This question reverberated through the heart of Daniel Mercer, a man whose life seemed to gleam with success on the surface, but was overshadowed by an unshakable grief. A powerful CEO in Toronto, Daniel had built a financial empire that many would envy, yet his heart was a battlefield of unresolved emotions and lost dreams. The memory of his first love, Emily, lingered like a sweet yet painful melody, echoing in the corners of his mind. She was his muse, the one who had ignited his passion for life and dreams of a future. But life had twisted its cruel knife, and he had lost her to circumstances he could never understand or accept. Daniel's vulnerability was not visible in the tailored suits he wore or the confident stride he took into board meetings. Instead, it lay buried beneath layers of professional success and emotional detachment. Despite the accolades and material wealth that surrounded him, he longed for the warmth of a love he could no longer reach. When he married Lucy, a woman of grace and kindness, he did so with the hope that she could fill the void left by Emily. Yet deep down, he recognized that she was merely a placeholder, a surrogate for the love he had lost. In their home, laughter echoed through the halls, but it never quite reached his heart. Lucy, with her unwavering dedication and selflessness, had sacrificed her own dreams, believing that she could somehow break through the barriers Daniel had erected around his heart. The city of Toronto, with its gleaming skyscrapers and relentless pace, served as the backdrop to Daniel's internal struggle. The urban landscape was a constant reminder of his ambitions and the life he had constructed, yet it was also a labyrinth where he felt increasingly lost. Every corner of the city whispered Emily's name, from the cafe where they shared stolen moments to the park where they had spoken of their dreams. As the seasons changed, so did the memories that swirled around him, each day a reminder of what could have been. But it was not until Lucy, weary of being the shadow of a memory, made the heart-wrenching decision to leave that Daniel's world tipped into chaos. With the divorce papers in hand, she stood before him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. "I can't keep living in the past, Daniel. I deserve to be loved for who I am, not as a substitute for someone who will never return." Her words struck him like a thunderbolt, illuminating the depths of his emotional neglect. The pained expression on her face was a mirror reflecting the truth he had tried so hard to ignore. The realization hit him with brutal clarity. He was about to lose not just a wife, but a partner who had devoted years of her life trying to mend his broken heart. The main conflict unfolded with each passing day as Daniel grappled with the impending loss. Panic and regret clawed at him, forcing him to confront the truth he had long avoided. The man who had effortlessly maneuvered through corporate challenges found himself powerless in the face of his own mistakes. His once unshakable confidence wavered, replaced by an urgent desire to make amends. Yet, how could he reach out to Lucy when the very walls he had built stood between them? The thought of her leaving felt like a gaping wound, one that would never heal. As he watched her gather her things, Daniel was struck by a tide of emotions he had suppressed for too long. Memories flooded back. The laughter, the dreams they had shared, the late-night talks that had once bonded them. Each moment was a reminder of the potential he had wasted, and the realization that he had taken her love for granted was almost unbearable. It was not just about reconciling with Lucy. It was about confronting his own demons, the fear of loss that had shackled him to the past. In this challenging environment, Daniel found himself at a crossroads. The city, once a symbol of his triumph, now felt like a prison built from his own choices. The stark contrast between his professional success and personal failure gnawed at him, prompting a desperate need to change. He knew he had to fight, not just for Lucy, but for himself. The battle was not just external, it was one of self-discovery and redemption. What was it that made him so afraid to embrace the present? Why had he allowed the shadows of the past to dictate his future? As he pondered these questions, Daniel began to see the cracks in his carefully constructed life. He recognized that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a pathway to healing, a necessary step toward reclaiming what he had nearly lost. With determination igniting within him, Daniel set forth on a journey of self-examination and accountability. He sought to confront the ghost of Emily, not to revive a lost love, but to liberate himself from its chains. He knew that to truly embrace Lucy and their life together, he had to acknowledge the love he had lost without letting it consume him. As the city continued to pulse with life around him, Daniel's journey became one of reclaiming agency over his heart. It was a fight against time and his own fears, a quest to mend the fissures in his relationship with Lucy before it was too late. The weight of his past loomed large, but it was also a spark for transformation, a reminder that love, in all its forms, deserved to be cherished, nurtured, and most importantly, fought for. In a world that often masked heartbreak with bravado, Daniel was about to learn that true strength lay in vulnerability, and that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight within ourselves. As he took a deep breath, ready to embark on his quest for redemption, he could feel the first stirrings of hope. Would he have the courage to confront his past and seize a future filled with love? Only time would tell. As Daniel Mercer stood in the remnants of his once happy home, the air thick with tension and unspoken words, he realized the enormity of the task ahead. Lucy's departure was not merely the dissolution of a marriage. It was the shattering of the illusion he had carefully crafted over the years. Guilt twisted in his gut, a relentless reminder of his failings. That morning, as she left, he had felt a desperate urge to call her back, to plead for a chance to make things right, but the words had stuck in his throat, silenced by a wave of self-doubt. How could he promise her anything when he had failed so grandly before? In the days that followed, the silence in their home was deafening. The walls, once vibrant with laughter and dreams, felt cold and uninviting. Daniel tried to keep himself busy, throwing himself into work. Yet the spreadsheets and meetings provided little solace. He found himself staring blankly at his computer screen, the numbers blurring together, his mind wandering back to Lucy's tear-streaked face. Each time he thought of her, a fresh wave of regret washed over him, pushing him further into despair. It was during one of these aimless days that Daniel's assistant, Clara, approached him with a mixture of concern and determination. Clara had been with him for years, a steadfast presence in his professional life, but now she seemed to embody a new role, one of an unexpected ally. "Daniel, I understand things aren't great at home," she began gently, her brown eyes searching his. "But you can't keep avoiding this. You need to talk to Lucy, really talk to her. You owe her that much." Daniel felt a surge of frustration. "What do you know about it, Clara? You don't understand what it's like to lose someone you love, to carry the weight of that loss every day." The bitterness in his voice surprised even him, but it was quickly overshadowed by the shame that followed. Clara's expression softened, and he could see the strength behind her concern. "I may not understand your pain, Daniel, but I know that shutting people out only prolongs the hurt. You won't find a solution in your office or in the numbers." Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea all at once. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt a flicker of hope igniting in the depths of his heart. Perhaps Clara was right. Perhaps facing the truth was the first step toward healing. But as he prepared to reach out to Lucy, new challenges arose. The company, once thriving under his leadership, began to falter. A rival firm launched a hostile takeover, and whispers of dissent echoed through the boardroom. The pressure mounted, and Daniel found himself drowning in a sea of financial jargon and strategic meetings. He had to focus on saving his empire, yet the weight of his personal life loomed over him like a dark cloud, threatening to consume him entirely. In the midst of this turmoil, Daniel received an unexpected visitor, his mother. She had flown in from Vancouver, concerned by the news of his impending divorce. Her warm embrace felt like a balm to his frayed nerves, but the moment she settled into his living room, he braced himself for the inevitable conversation. "Daniel, sweetheart, I've heard things aren't going well. Is it true about Lucy?" As he nodded, the floodgates opened, and Daniel recounted the events that had led to this moment. His mother listened, her expression shifting from concern to disappointment. "You've always been so focused on your career, Daniel. I just wish you had invested the same energy into your marriage. Love doesn't flourish in the shadows." Her words struck him hard, a reminder that he had been blind to the needs of those he cared for most. "This isn't just about me, Mum," he protested weakly. "Emily, she was always there in the back of my mind. I thought I could bury those feelings. But they've resurfaced and they've taken control of your life," she interrupted gently. "You need to let go of the past, sweetheart. Emily wouldn't want you to live this way. You have a chance with Lucy. Don't let it slip through your fingers." Those words echoed in his mind long after his mother had left. With renewed determination, he reached out to Lucy, sending her a heartfelt message. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you." The seed of hope had been planted, yet he was acutely aware of the obstacles that lay ahead. Would Lucy even be willing to listen? Would she be able to see beyond the ghost of Emily that loomed so large in his life? The day of their meeting arrived, and Daniel stood nervously in the cafe where they had shared countless happy moments together. The familiar scent of coffee and freshly baked pastries was both comforting and torturous. As he waited, doubt gnawed at him. What if she had already moved on? What if he had lost her for good? When Lucy entered, her presence was magnetic, and for a moment he was overwhelmed by a rush of emotions. She looked radiant yet guarded, her eyes betraying a vulnerability that mirrored his own. "Daniel," she greeted stiffly, taking a seat across from him. "Lucy, thank you for coming," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I need you to know that I'm trying to change. I've spent too long trapped in the past, and it's cost me everything that truly matters." Lucy's gaze softened, but the hurt was still palpable. "Daniel, it's not just about you. I've been living in the shadow of someone who isn't here anymore, and I don't want to be reminded of that every day. I want to be loved for who I am, not as a placeholder." Her words struck him deeply, igniting a fire of resolve within. "I don't want to lose you, Lucy. I know I've pushed you away, but I want to fight for us. I want to be the man you deserve." As they spoke, the conversation ebbed and flowed, touching upon their shared history and the unfulfilled dreams that had once united them. Daniel felt the weight of his past pushing against him, but in Lucy's presence, he could almost envision a way forward. Yet just as hope began to blossom, a familiar specter lingered at the edges of his consciousness, reminding him of the battles he had yet to face. As their conversation continued, Lucy challenged him to confront not only his feelings for Emily, but also the insecurities that had led him to bury his emotions. "You can't expect me to accept you back without knowing that you're truly ready to let her go. You need to confront your past, Daniel, or it will continue to haunt you." It was a moment of clarity that shook him to his core. The challenge was daunting, but as he looked into Lucy's eyes, he felt a burgeoning sense of responsibility, not just to her, but to himself. The ghosts of his past would not easily relinquish their hold, but perhaps, with Lucy by his side, he could find the strength to face them. As they parted, Daniel felt the tremors of a new resolve coursing through him. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but he was determined to embrace the struggle, knowing that true growth often emerged from the crucible of adversity. He felt the stirrings of a friendship with Clara, whose unwavering support had become a beacon in his darkest moments, and he began to see the potential for deeper connections with those around him. In the weeks that followed, Daniel confronted his past head-on, seeking closure with Emily's memory while simultaneously nurturing the fragile bond he had begun to rebuild with Lucy. Each step forward was met with obstacles, moments of doubt, the haunting presence of regret, and the fear of losing Lucy again. But with each confrontation, he felt himself growing stronger, more resilient, and more willing to embrace vulnerability. As he navigated this tumultuous journey, Daniel discovered that the ghosts of his past no longer had the power to define him. Instead, they became part of the tapestry of his life, woven into the narrative of his growth and transformation. The challenge of reconciling the past with the present became a pathway to liberation, allowing him to forge a future filled with hope, love, and the possibility of redemption. As Daniel navigated the tumultuous waters of his personal life, new challenges began to emerge, complicating his already fraught journey. The hostile takeover attempt by the rival firm intensified, and the board was losing faith in his leadership. Whispers of discontent echoed through the hallways, and the pressure of the corporate world bore down on him like a vice. The sense of impending failure gnawed at him, eroding the hard-won progress he had made in confronting his past and reaching out to Lucy. One morning, as he sat in his office, staring blankly at the numbers that once held no fear for him, Clara knocked on the door and entered with a grim expression. "Daniel, we need to talk. The board is considering a vote of no confidence if the situation doesn't improve. We can't keep losing clients like this." Her voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the underlying concern. He had always relied on her sharp instincts, but now he felt the weight of her disappointment as a personal failure. "Clara, I know. I'm trying to focus on everything, but my mind is clouded." He rubbed his temples, feeling the tension building. "I can't afford to be distracted by my personal life right now, but it's like a shadow that follows me everywhere." "Your personal life is affecting your work, Daniel. You need to find a way to separate the two, or it will all come crashing down." Clara's eyes bore into him, and he could see the unwavering determination in her gaze. It was a reminder that he wasn't just fighting for himself, he had a team depending on him. The stakes were getting higher, and the pressure of the impending vote hung over him like a storm cloud. With every passing day, the prospect of losing his job felt more tangible. The fear of failure loomed large, and Daniel felt the familiar grip of anxiety creeping up his spine. He had fought so hard to build his career, only to watch it slip through his fingers, much like his marriage had. At home, the silence had begun to feel oppressive. He found himself pacing the floors at night, haunted by memories of Lucy's laughter and the warmth of her presence. The absence of those simple joys weighed heavily on him, and he began to wonder if he was truly worthy of reconciliation. He knew he had to confront the specter of Emily, but each time he tried to gather his thoughts, the fear of what he might uncover held him back. One evening, while sifting through old boxes in his attic, Daniel stumbled upon a collection of letters exchanged between him and Emily during their relationship. The words were a bittersweet reminder of a love that had once filled his heart with joy, but had ultimately led to his current state of despair. As he read through them, he was struck by the raw honesty of their youthful dreams and the naivete of their promises. Suddenly, the weight of regret became unbearable. He felt a surge of anger towards himself for allowing the past to dictate his present. It was a turning point. He realized that he had been using Emily's memory as a crutch, an excuse to remain stagnant in a life that no longer served him. Yet, even as this realization washed over him, doubt gnawed at his resolve. Could he truly let her go? And what if Lucy wouldn't accept the man he was trying to become? As he battled these internal conflicts, Clara continued to support him, urging him to confront his fears head-on. "You can't keep running from your past, Daniel. You need to face it, not just for Lucy, but for yourself. You owe it to yourself to be free." Her unwavering belief in him began to chip away at his fear, igniting a flicker of determination within him. But just as he began to gather the courage to reach out to Lucy again, a new obstacle appeared. Clara, who had been his rock through this tumultuous time, received a job offer from a competitor. The prospect of losing her as both an assistant and a friend loomed heavily. If she left, not only would he lose a crucial ally in the boardroom, but he would also lose the one person who had understood him in ways no one else could. "Daniel, I've thought about this a lot," she said quietly one afternoon, her eyes downcast. "I know you're going through a lot, but this is an incredible opportunity for me. I need to think about my future, too." Her words pierced him, and he felt a fresh wave of despair wash over him. "I can't lose you as well, Clara. You're the only person who believes in me right now. I want to see you succeed," she replied, her voice steadfast. "But you need to find your footing without me. You have the strength to do this, Daniel. I believe in you." The sincerity in her words left him shaken, but he knew that her departure would create a void he wouldn't easily fill. As the days passed, the emotional toll became evident. Daniel found himself experiencing sleepless nights and anxiety that manifested as physical symptoms. Tightness in his chest, fatigue, and a constant feeling of being on edge. He had become a shadow of the confident leader he once was, and with each setback, he felt himself slipping further into despair. The tension at work escalated, and the board's dissatisfaction reached a boiling point. At a particularly heated meeting, one of the board members openly questioned his commitment to the company, insinuating that his personal issues were blinding him to the needs of the business. "If you can't manage your personal life, how can we trust you to lead us?" The words felt like a slap in the face, and Daniel's heart raced as he fought to maintain his composure. In that moment, something shifted within him. He realized that he could no longer allow the past to dictate his future. With Clara's encouragement and Lucy's tentative presence in his thoughts, he found an ember of resolve. Perhaps he could channel his hurt into something productive, something that would not only save his career, but also give him the clarity he so desperately sought in his personal life. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel made a conscious decision to confront each challenge head-on, refusing to allow fear to dictate his actions. He began to focus on his work, rallying his team to innovate and find new solutions to the company's problems. The fire that had been dormant for so long began to flicker back to life, igniting a passion he thought he had lost forever. Simultaneously, he reached out to Lucy again, this time with renewed honesty. "I know I haven't been fair to you, and I'm sorry for that. I've been trying to make sense of everything, but I want to start anew. I want to be the man you deserve." Her cautious response, one that acknowledged his efforts but also her own need for healing, left him feeling both hopeful and anxious. As Daniel worked to mend the broken pieces of his life, he began to see the interconnectedness of his challenges. Each obstacle he faced was not merely a barrier, but a lesson, pushing him toward growth and resilience. He reflected on Clara's departure, recognizing that while it would leave a void, it would also force him to rely on his own strength. In the midst of these changes, Daniel began to cultivate a deeper understanding of himself. He sought therapy, eager to confront the emotional turmoil that had festered for too long. The sessions were often painful, forcing him to confront feelings of inadequacy and the guilt he had carried over Emily's memory. Yet with each encounter, he felt lighter, as if pieces of the burden he had borne were finally being lifted. Daniel's journey was far from linear. He faced moments of doubt, setbacks that threatened to pull him back into the shadows. But with Lucy's tentative support, Clara's unwavering belief, and the internal strength he was finally learning to embrace, he began to see a path forward, a path that promised not only redemption, but also the possibility of a life filled with genuine connection and joy. The turning point was approaching, and Daniel could feel the ground shifting beneath him. With every challenge he faced, he was inching closer to the man he wanted to become, a man who could embrace love without the weight of the past holding him back, a leader who could inspire others through vulnerability and strength. As he looked toward the future, he felt a renewed sense of purpose blossoming within him, ready to face whatever came next with resilience and determination. As Daniel continued to grapple with the weight of his past and the pressures of his present, an unexpected event sent ripples through his already turbulent life. It was a chilly Wednesday afternoon when he received a call that would change everything. His phone rang, the screen flashing with a name he hadn't seen in years, Emily's sister, Clara. A knot formed in his stomach as he hesitated before answering. The news she delivered was both shocking and heartbreaking. Emily had been in a car accident. She was in critical condition and fighting for her life. The news hit him like a physical blow, knocking the breath from his lungs. As he listened to Clara's shaky voice on the other end, detailing the circumstances surrounding the tragic event, Daniel felt a wave of emotions crash over him: fear, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. How could this be happening? They hadn't spoken in years, and now he was faced with the real possibility of losing her forever. Memories flooded back, intertwining with the regret he had tried so hard to overcome. The weight of unresolved feelings pressed down on him, and he could hardly process the reality of the situation. In the days that followed, Daniel found himself in a daze. He attended the hospital, where he was met with the stark reality of the trauma unit, the sterile smell of antiseptic mingling with the palpable tension in the air. As he stood by Emily's bedside, he was struck by how fragile life could be. The steady beeping of the machines was a haunting reminder of her precarious state, and he felt an urgent need to speak to her, to say the things he had left unsaid for far too long. His heart raced as he grasped her hand, so small and lifeless in his. "Emily, I'm here," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry for everything. I should have done better. I should have fought for us." Tears streamed down his face, the weight of his emotions finally breaking free in the face of such a stark reminder of mortality. As he sat there, he realized that this moment was more than just an encounter with grief. It was a turning point, a catalyst for change. The fear that had once held him captive now transformed into a fierce determination. He couldn't allow the past to continue dictating his present. He had fought so hard to confront his demons, and now, faced with the possibility of losing someone who had once meant so much to him, he understood the urgency of living authentically. The emotional turmoil that enveloped him ignited a flame of clarity. Daniel began to reflect on the choices he had made, the paths he had walked, and the ramifications of his inaction. He realized that he had been so focused on his failures that he had neglected the importance of connection, of the relationships that mattered most. The accident had forced him to confront the fragility of life and the necessity of embracing love and forgiveness, both for himself and for others. In those hours spent by Emily's bedside, Daniel made a vow. He would not let fear dictate his life any longer. He would reach out to Lucy, to Clara, and to anyone else he had pushed away. The thought of Emily, her laughter, her spirit, the dreams they once shared, became a powerful motivator. He wanted to honor her memory by living fully, by forging connections rather than allowing fear to sever them. With each passing hour, he began to feel a renewed sense of purpose. This event, while devastating, had opened his eyes to the possibilities that lay ahead. He could choose to be the man who confronted his past and sought forgiveness, not only from those he had wronged, but from himself as well. This tragic moment forced him to realize the importance of vulnerability and authenticity in both his personal and professional life. As he left the hospital that night, the weight of uncertainty still lingered, but he felt a glimmer of hope. The board's impending vote of no confidence no longer seemed like the end of his career. Instead, it became a challenge he was ready to face. He would approach it not with trepidation, but with the resolve to inspire his team and to lead with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. The next day, Daniel walked into the office with a new mindset. He gathered his team, feeling the weight of their anxious gazes upon him. "I know things have been tough lately," he began, his voice steady, "but I want to share something personal with you all." He spoke candidly about his struggles, the impact of his past on his present, and the importance of facing challenges head-on. As he poured out his heart, he saw the understanding in their eyes, a collective recognition of the human experience that bound them together. In that moment, he felt the power of solidarity. His vulnerability did not weaken him. It strengthened the bonds within his team. They rallied around him, inspired by his honesty, and together they began to brainstorm innovative solutions to the challenges facing the company. The atmosphere shifted, and for the first time in months, Daniel felt a surge of optimism. As days turned into weeks, the impact of the accident continued to resonate within him. Emily's condition remained precarious, and although she fought valiantly, Daniel knew that her fate was uncertain. Yet even amidst the heartache, he forged ahead with a sense of clarity and purpose. He reached out to Lucy, arranging to meet, and this time he was prepared to lay bare his soul, to be honest about his journey and his desire to rebuild what had been lost. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's commitment to confronting his past and embracing vulnerability began to pay off. Clara stayed with him, offering unwavering support as she navigated her own transition. The board, recognizing his renewed energy and determination, began to rally behind him. The hostile takeover attempt lost momentum, and with the team united, they began to attract new clients, breathing life back into the company. As he continued to face each challenge, Daniel found strength in the lessons he had learned. The turning point had shifted not only his perspective, but had also opened new pathways for growth, both personally and professionally. He understood that the road ahead would not be without its obstacles, but with each step he took, He moved closer to the man he wanted to become, a man who embraced love, faced his fears, and recognized the importance of connection in a world that often felt isolating. In the quiet moments between the chaos, Daniel found solace in the knowledge that he was not alone. Each setback had become a stepping stone, propelling him toward a future filled with possibility and hope. And as he prepared to step into the next chapter of his life, he carried with him the lessons of the past, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead with a heart full of courage and an unwavering belief in the power of redemption.